Hey friends, and welcome back to Stronger Every Day. Today we're going to talk about how to control stress when you have depression and anxiety. And I touched on this a little bit in the previous video. I'm not sure that they're in line, but in a previous video that I would talk about controlling stress when you have depression and anxiety. And it's hard enough to control stress when you just living, right? In today's world, we have a lot of demands on our life, but it's really difficult to control it when you have depression, anxiety, and mental illness. So I wanted to read a verse. It's Psalms 34:4. I sought the Lord, and he answered me and delivered me from my fears. When trouble hits, seek the Lord. He is always there, and he will be there. Pray to him. Pray for what you're going through, and understand that he might answer that prayer differently than the way you wanted it answered. And let me give you an example. A cancer diagnosis. Okay, obviously if we're diagnosed with cancer or heart failure or diabetes or liver disease, we don't want that, right? We don't want that. We want God to take it away, and he may. You may pray about it, and he may take the cancer away. He might also give you the strength to fight through it. We know the outcomes of some of those diseases, right? And they don't always look like the way we prayed for. One of my favorite quotes is from Micah Taylor, and it's in a song that he sings called Different. And it's at the beginning of the song, so there's a couple different versions, but it's not part of the song. It's at the beginning. It says, Jesus, he said, often we ask, Jesus, can you change these things around me? But rather, God, can you change me so that I can handle the things that you're walking me through? That's huge, because he's not always going to take it away, right? He did not take my depression and anxiety away. And believe me, I prayed, my husband prayed, one of my best friends prayed. I'm sure there's a few other people that have prayed. He did not take that away. He let me go through it. It did not work the way that I wanted it to work, but it worked the way God had planned it. Now, it might have taken me, I feel like he's been calling me to do this longer, and I just wasn't hearing it correctly. So it might not have been this long, but it took some time. It was not what I had thought. I wanted you're healed, you know. And that's not what happened. He walked me through it, and he's taken me through the depths of it, and he's been right there with me. And that's why I'm able to talk to you today and actually understand what you're going through, because I've been there. And Stella, she's a little guard dog. No, she's not. Another thing is, I want to give you an example of this. My husband, and this was back when we were struggling, and we were struggling hard, and I mean hard. We ate once a day. Sometimes I didn't eat because he needed it, because his job was more strenuous, and it was hard. We fought for every dollar, and I remember he had injured his knee right before we got married. Like the weekend before we got married, he had injured his knee and tore his ACL. And we, at the time, thought that he went to the doctor, and I did not go with him, and that was probably a mistake, but we were under the impression that it would eventually kind of heal itself, and he would be okay. And that's actually not what the doctor said, but that's how he interpreted it, and that's what was told to me. And so a few years after that, you know, we're struggling, we're barely making it, and he had gotten a job that is strenuous and requires physical activity. He had gotten on with the police department and was going to go through, he was already working there, and he was going to go through the academy, and where preparing for it. We're gung-ho. We're ready to go. We're making plans. He was going to be gone for, I don't know, 6 or 8 weeks. And then he got to the academy, and they were running up a hill or down a hill. I can't remember what he said. And his knee buckled. And that was it. He lost the job, and he went back to working a farming job, and our financial situation got even worse. And we prayed and prayed and prayed, and God did not answer it the way we wanted. He did answer it the best way possible. It ended up that he was able to get the surgery for no cost and get his knee repaired. However, that was going to take him off work for, I believe it was 4 to 6 weeks. And he was able to, at some point, go back and do some desk work. The farm, they own a lot. So he was able to kind of go back and do some desk work. But when you're barely struggling, I mean, when you're barely making it and you're struggling and your other source of income goes crashing through, that is not, I mean, I cried, I bawled, I was hysterical. And you know, Nick never buckled. He always said, God is going to provide for us. Just let it be. But I'm over here with the spreadsheet and the bills and the books, and I'm looking at this and that, thinking there's no way we can't, we can't afford now. There's no way we can't afford without that extra salary. And you know what? We made it through. And because of that knee injury, got him to back in college to finish his bachelor's, to put him in the job that he's in now. That, I mean, we're not millionaires by far. We're not even anywhere close to that, but we're self-sufficient. We're providing for each other, and that job gave it to us. But it sparked from that knee injury that was a problem until we didn't see God's path. We didn't see the way he was going with that. That certainly was not our prayer. And God handled it. And of course, with mental illness and depression, you're thinking the worst of everything. And Nick never feared and never buckled on any of that. He's kind of been an inspiration to me that, he's never worried that God was not going to provide. Never. And he knew what we made, I mean, I'm the one that does the books, but I mean, he knew what we made and what we were bringing in, and he never lost sight that God was in control. So sometimes it doesn't look like that. Sometimes we don't, God's plan is different than ours, and it was actually better than we could have ever imagined, but you don't always see that in the throes of it. So I wanted to go over some things. When people say, well, you need to reduce your stress. Okay. Well, I'll work on that. It's very difficult sometimes, but we prioritize what we feel is important. And we make time for what we feel is important. So there's a few things that, yes, you can do no matter how busy your life is. I remember when I was in college, I was working 2 jobs. I was going through a citizen's, it was a program with the police department and the fire department where you were kind of like an admin type person with the intent to either go into the police academy or the fire academy. And you did that part-time. And I remember they gave us a stress test one day, and I was full-time college and had 2 jobs. And they gave us a stress test, and me and another guy that was in our program were off the charts. And I remember the instructor, she's like, you guys have to do something. This is not good. And I'm like, well, what are we supposed to do? Like, we get up at 6, or I got up at 6. I'm assuming he did too, because we had the same classes. We got up at 6. We got to school by 7:30, 7:45. Class started at 8. We went till class got done. Then we had our first job. Then we had this job. And then we got home, at 10 or 11 at night. We still had to study. And then go to sleep. And this was 5 days a week. And then, the other job, we both, that particular job we had off on weekends, but you know, where were we supposed to reduce the stress and how? Like, it's one thing to tell me to do it, but another thing to tell me how to do it. So here's some things that have helped me with the depression and anxiety. So a couple things that have helped me is I do not procrastinate things. I don't push things off for later. If something needs to be done, do it. Because the way my mind works, and probably yours, is that if you have a task, let's just say you need to do the laundry, and you don't feel like it, you definitely don't feel like folding it, and then you don't feel like doing any of that, so you procrastinate it. My mind thinks about that task for the next day, or the next 2 days, or the next 3 days, however long it takes for me to do it. My mind is still thinking about that because I know that it needs to be done. Just do it. Take that completely out of your mind. Whatever task that looks like, whatever you're procrastinating and putting off, don't. Just do it when it comes in your mind. Take care of it, do it, get it done, and you never have to think about it. I mean, obviously laundry you think about often, right? Those of us that have to do laundry, we think about it pretty frequently. But the task at hand doesn't have to get done because you took care of it and you did it. Take some time for self-care. Now, not all of us can either A, afford, or B, have the time, or C, both, to go to a spa for half a day, right? And get a facial, and get a massage, and get our nails done, and get our toes done. Some people, that's completely unrealistic to think that you could do either of those, any of that. But you can maybe take 10 minutes and take a bath. You can take 10 minutes and maybe go for a walk just to clear your mind. You could go for a drive just to clear your mind. 10 minutes. We know gas is nuts, right? So just a 10-minute quick little, just you and just relaxing. You could take 10-15 minutes and do your own nails. You could take 10 or 15 minutes and do an at-home facial. You could take 10 minutes. I know my husband likes to get out and be outside and with machinery and do stuff in the yard. Do that. If you don't have machinery, take an axe and work on some lumber for your fireplace. There's always little things that you can do for self-care that we constantly push off because either we feel like we don't deserve it, it's not important, or it's selfish. And I'm not talking about being selfish, but self-care is not selfish. You want to take care of everyone around you, but if you don't take care of yourself, you're not helping anyone. Another thing that has made a tremendous difference for me is to, let me stop right there and go back to the self-care, because I want you to understand this has been real hard for me because I don't want to spend the money, I don't have the time, I don't want to, I do my own nails. I mean, I don't really do my nails, they're just, I do my own hair because I don't want to spend the money on myself, because I don't feel like I deserve it. I do, if I get pampered, it's because I took a bath or did some of these things. I'm right there with you where you feel like you don't deserve it, you don't need it, it's not necessary. And sometimes self-care isn't. Can you survive without taking a bath for 10 minutes? Yes. But mentally, how are you living day to day without taking just a little time? Maybe it's just once a week that you take time to self-care. Maybe it's 5 minutes every day. Maybe it's taking part of that self-care in the morning and getting up and talking to the Lord. Whatever that looks like for you, take a little self-care. The other thing that's helped is to eat clean. Now, I'm fully aware that prices are crazy at the grocery store. Organic prices are even higher, and it's not applicable to everyone to be able to buy 100% organic all day, all the time, and eat happy and healthy. Okay, so don't. But maybe you don't go to fast food. Maybe you cut out fast food. Number one, it would save you some money not to run to fast food. Number two, you eat that fast food and you might have a moment of satisfaction, but then an hour later you feel like poop. And that's because all of that stuff is filled with junk that your body does not need and doesn't even recognize and doesn't want. Eat something healthy. Prepare something. Take some healthier snacks. Maybe it's you eat at home all week. Maybe it's not organic, but it's not crap food. Maybe you cut out dessert. Maybe you step away from sugar, which has been a tremendous help for me. Whatever, you can adjust one or the other thing in your life. Maybe you drink more water. Whatever eating clean looks like for you. For me, my mental health is night and day better when I am not eating fast food, candy, cake, sugary crap. Period. My mental health is night and day better, as is typically my arthritis, which I'm having a little bit of a flare, but typically it's much better when I'm eating cleaner. Say no. There's things people are going to ask for you to do something, or want you to come do this or do that, or here's another task that we're going to see if you'll take on at work. It's okay to say no. It's also okay to say, I'll do it, but it's going to be a few weeks. It is okay to say no. We want, as Christians, to help everyone and everybody and do everything we can, and that's great. And if we have the ability, we should. But there's times where you're stretched in 47 different directions, and that 48th time is going to break everything in your body. Sometimes you have to say no, and people that love you and care about you are going to understand that no, and they're not going to take it personal. If they do, that's something to think about. Is that friendship or that relationship really what you thought it was? When people can't understand that sometimes you have a need to say no. This one is a hard one for me, but reduce your caffeine intake. So caffeine helps get me through the day. I don't drink coffee, so I drink diet drinks, which I know are not great. And reducing caffeine can kind of get you a little bit jittery, a little bit anxious, which is also hard when you already have anxiety. So reducing that caffeine, even if it's just 1 cup of coffee or 1 bottle of soda or can of soda, or whatever that caffeine looks like for you, just reduce it by 1 and see if that helps. Also, talk to friends and family when you're stressed. Let them know. I think we want to be strong, and we want everyone to think that we have it all together and we have no problems and there's nothing wrong with us. We can handle everything, and you don't have to tell them every detail. But if you're struggling, when you see someone struggling, you notice that, right? But we think they're not going to notice that about us. And what that makes people do is think, well, what's happened? What have I done something? Is she upset because I did something, or I didn't do something, or I said something? Just be honest. I've worked hard on this with Nick, my husband, to let him know when I'm having something going on, so that he doesn't have to wonder, well, is she mad at me? Did I do something? Did I not? Did she tell me to do something and I didn't do it? Just be open and honest and communicate. You don't have to throw a pity party. You know, I've been telling him lately, listen, I'm having some arthritis flares. It is what it is. It's there. I know that God's going to handle it. But if you're wondering why I'm sitting around with a heating pad or popping Tylenol a decent amount, then I want you to, I want to be honest with you and tell you. Denying that you have an issue is not Christian. Like, that doesn't make you a better Christian because you have a pounding headache, or you have heart disease, or they gave you a cancer diagnosis. Well, yeah, they gave me a cancer diagnosis, and that's scary, and that's true, and I have that. I don't personally, but God's in control. God's going to handle this. I have my faith in Him. Be honest about it. We don't have to deny every feeling that we feel so we can be some superhuman Christian. Christians, you have the same emotion and feelings that anybody else has. We try to deny it and act like we have all of our stuff together, and I don't know anybody that has all of their stuff together. Period. Christian and non-Christian alike. The last 2 things, exercise obviously is good for your mental health. It gets your endorphins going, and that makes you feel better. That's going to look different for everybody. Not everybody's going to have an hour and a half to go to the gym and run on the treadmill and lift weights and do a HIIT program or a spin class or whatever. Maybe it's walking from your mailbox to the end of the street 10 times a day. It's more than you did the day before. Maybe it is going for a hike on the weekend with some friends or your spouse, or maybe just by yourself to clear your mind. Maybe it is walking on a treadmill. Maybe it's out gardening. Maybe it's out doing yard work. Whatever that exercise looks like for you. We don't all have to follow the same pattern. But getting your heart rate up, getting active, helps reduce the stress, which in turn makes you feel better. The last thing is, and this one I think is really hard for us, is to reduce screen time. So we get on all of these social media accounts and we see all these people laughing, and you know, the picture at the beach and the picture at the lake and the staged picture for photography, and we think, man, that is so perfect, they have it all together, and we should be happy for them. But that's a second in their life of that trip to the beach that you're seeing. That's a second in that trip to the lake that you're seeing. You have no idea that they weren't fighting with every kid they had to get them in line for said picture, and that's a big fake smile and they just wanted the picture. You know, we set such unrealistic expectations with filters and just so much on social media. The negative of social media, the news is usually negative. Step away from it for a little bit and don't even let that get in your brain to have to start processing. This one is one that I'm working on. I still like to check in on some social media platforms to see how my friends and family are doing. But what I find is I rarely find out anything, you know, someone passed away or someone got married or someone had a baby. It's rarely anything like that. It's usually trash. I mean, it's usually just junk that then you put in your head and process, and you wasted 10 minutes of your day or an hour of your day or however long you're spending on those sites. So these are some practical things that have helped me reduce stress with depression and anxiety. So I hope these help. I always end my video like this, and I hope that you hear this. I hope you feel this. God loves you. I love you. Your friends love you. Your family loves you, and you are needed here. We'll see you in the next one, guys. Bye.